security to order. We will start in 1 minute. Dear colleagues, please take your seats. We will begin with our first item, adoption of the agenda. The agenda for this meeting has been distributed. Could I please invite you to adopt the agenda? Are there any objections? No, the agenda is adopted. Thank you. Distinguished colleagues, it is my honor to open today's meeting of the General Committee on Political Affairs and Security. Allow me to begin by expressing our sincere appreciation to our gracious hosts here in Portugal for their excellent work in organizing this annual session in the beautiful city of Porto. We are grateful for their warm hospitality and continued support. I warmly welcome you all and thank you for your continued commitment to international cooperation during these critical times. I would like also to welcome all new members joining us here for the first time. Dear colleagues, the work of this committee has never been more vital. We meet against the backdrop of an increasingly unstable global security environment marked by persistent aggression, humanitarian crisis, and the erosion of multilateral norms. Foremost among our concerns remains Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, a brutal and unjustifiable war that continues to inflict immense suffering. This is not just a war on Ukraine, it is a direct assault on the spirit and principles of the Helsinki Final Act. The consequences reverberate far beyond Ukraine's borders, threatening the very foundation of European security. While developments around Ukraine are changing rapidly, we need to be clear on one main point. Any future resolution to this conflict must be grounded in respect for Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Peace cannot be dictated. It must be just, inclusive, and based on Ukraine's own vision for its future. Elsewhere, in our region, we are witnessing concerning developments. In Moldova, hybrid threats continue to undermine democratic institutions. In Georgia, recent trends signal a worrying regression in democratic standards. Belarus remains under de facto Russian control, with the civil liberties severely curtailed. These situations demand our close scrutiny and principled response. Beyond the OSCE area, escalating tensions in the Middle East, particularly the war in Gaza and conflict between Israel and Iran, remind us that instability is never confined. Regional conflicts and global insecurity are increasingly intertwined. As parliamentarians, we must remain attuned to these dynamics and reaffirm our commitment to dialogue, de-escalation, and peaceful resolution. Colleagues, we must also acknowledge the institutional challenges facing the OSCE itself. The persistent inability to reach consensus on key administrative matters has significantly hampered the organization's ability to fulfill its mandate. In this year, marking the 50th anniversary of the Helsinki Final Act, we must renew our resolve to safeguard the OSCE's purpose and preserve its credibility. Despite these challenges, our committee has remained active and engaged. Over the past year, we have monitored political and security developments across the region, and I want to commend our rapporteur, Mr. Tobias Winkler, for preparing a thoughtful and timely report and resolution, which I hope will serve as a solid foundation for our debates and decisions. I also want to recognize his continued attention to key thematic issues, including his recent op-ed highlighting the urgent need to strengthen the protection of critical infrastructure, an area for growing importance for our collective security. Earlier this year, during our winter meeting, we held a special debate focused on nuclear escalation, risk, and the protection of critical infrastructure. These issues remain deeply relevant today, and I look forward to further discussions on how our assembly can contribute to advancing security and resilience in these areas. Dear colleagues, thank you all for your presence and dedication. This committee has long served as a platform for honest and at times difficult conversations. I look forward to our debates in the coming days and to identifying concrete ways in which we as parliamentarians can contribute to the collective security and stability of the OSCE region. I hope we will be able to use this opportunity to reflect on the legacy of the Helsinki Final Act and to reaffirm our shared commitment to the principles of sovereignty, territorial integrity, human rights, and cooperative security that remain just as relevant today as they were 50 years ago. Thank you. This committee is scheduled to have 4 meetings during the session. Our first task will be to debate the report by our rapporteur, Mr. Tobias Winkler, entitled Commemorating 50 Years of the Helsinki Final Act, Responding to a New Reality in the OSCE. We will also consider amendments on his draft resolution. Time permitting, we will start this process today. We have 32 amendments tabled to the draft resolution, which are available outside the room, on the documents table and on the app. In addition, this committee has been tasked by the Standing Committee to debate and consider 5 supplementary items covering the following issues: supporting multiculturalism within the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, proposed by Mr. Pascal Alizar from France; supporting the recognition of the State of Palestine as a means of ensuring peace, regional stability and compliance with international law, proposed by Mrs. Anna Bellotti from Italy; preventing youth radicalization to violent extremism and terrorists through education and media and information literacy, proposed by Mr. Kamil Aydin from Turkey; maritime security, an integral part of the OSCE's comprehensive security, proposed by Mr. Vil Kaunisto from Finland; and supporting Moldova's independence and democracy, proposed by Mr. Paweł Zolensky from Poland. Amendments have been tabled to these supplementary items, and they are available in the usual way. We will consider the supplementary items when our main business on the draft resolution is concluded. May I remind colleagues that the election of committee officers for the next annual session of the Assembly will take place during the committee's final session, which is likely to take place on Wednesday morning. I have been asked to put before the committee a proposal by the Secretariat for a change to the deadline of candidate nominations. This is to allow sufficient time for the arrangements for the election to be made ahead of our meeting on Wednesday. The same proposal is being put to all general committees. Under Rule 36, paragraph 5, the Secretariat would like to ask the committee to agree that the deadline for nominations for the committee officers shall be 6 p.m. on Tuesday, 1st July. This is to allow sufficient time for the arrangement for elections to be made ahead of our meeting on Wednesday morning. Are there any objections? Thank you. The proposal was adopted. I would now like to welcome to the floor Mr. Tobias Winkler to present his report, the draft resolution to this committee. It would assist me greatly if any member wishing to speak during the debate could enter his or her name in the register as early in the debate as possible. Mr. Winkler, you have the floor.
Yeah, dear Chairman, dear colleagues, good morning everybody. So let me begin emphasizing that we gather here in Porto at a time when the political and security dynamics within the OSCE region are in flux, with new and often consequential developments occurring almost daily. This moment calls for our close attention, our collective wisdom, and above all, our renewed commitment to dialogue, cooperation, and the fundamental principles that underpin our shared security architecture. Before I turn to the substance of my report, allow me also to express my sincere appreciation to the officers and the staff in the background of our committee for their excellent cooperation and support throughout the past year. Our close coordination has been instrumental in ensuring the effective work of the committee. I would also like to extend my gratitude to all members of the committee and to all colleagues from the OSCE EPA Bureau who have been in contact with me in course of preparing both the report and the draft resolution. Your valuable input, suggestions and feedback have greatly contributed to shaping the documents that I'm presenting today. Given the many security challenges that have emerged over the past month, including the newly erupted war in the Middle East and the other developments affecting our OSCE region, I must emphasize that the report and draft resolution I present today reflect the situation as it stood during the preparation in February, which feels like history in some aspects today. Therefore, I welcome any updates or amendments that colleagues may propose to ensure that the resolution accurately captures the most recent developments. I will support most of them. Our shared goal is to present a text that offers a timely and comprehensive overview of the most pressing threats to peace, democracy, and security across our region. At the center of this picture remains Russia's ongoing war of aggression against Ukraine, a blatant violation of the Helsinki Final Act and of international law. My report and resolution reiterates our strongest condemnation of this war and calls for the immediate and unconditional withdrawal of Russian forces from Ukraine's internationally recognized territory. They also highlight the devastating humanitarian consequences of the conflict, including the unlawful deportation of children, attacks on civilians, and destruction of critical infrastructure. I'm also raising concerns about the possible suspension of military support to Ukraine by international partners, which risk undermining the country's defense capabilities and shifting the balance of the conflict. In this context, the documents call for sustained political, military, financial, and humanitarian support for Ukraine, while reaffirming the fundamental principle that any peace process must include Ukraine as an equal and active participant. Beyond Ukraine, the text addressed a range of regional and thematic security concerns. They highlight Russia's hybrid tactics in Moldova, the systematic repression in Belarus, the destabilizing presence of Russian troops in Georgia's occupied regions, and democratic backsliding in parts of Southeast Europe. At the same time, we need to acknowledge some positive developments in the OSCE area, such as the progress in Armenia-Azerbaijan peace negotiations and the historic border agreement between Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, as signs that diplomacy and dialogue remain the foundation of durable solution of conflicts. The report also draws attention to the volatile situation in the Middle East, where Israeli hostages are not released since 632 days, most of them already dead, where people face humanitarian suffering and the rule of international law is violated frequently. Durable peace, a significant improvement of the humanitarian situation, and finally a two-state solution with Israeli living in safe borders and Palestinians living in safe borders remains our main goal. Importantly, both the report and the resolution place strong emphasis on resilience, whether in the face of aggression, disinformation, energy insecurity, or institutional fragility. They highlight the vital role of OSCE PA structures, including the Parliamentary Support Team on Ukraine and the work of our special representatives in supporting democratic institutions, human rights, and regional stability. Dear colleagues, this year marks the 50th anniversary of the Helsinki Final Act, a milestone that reminds us of the principles that underpin our shared security. Those principles, sovereignty, territorial integrity, peaceful dispute resolutions, and respect for human rights, are being tested like never before. These documents are a call to defend those principles with clarity, conviction, and collective action. I look forward to your feedback and contributions and would be glad to discuss with you any comments you might have. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Winkler. The floor is now open for debate. The time limit for speeches is 2 minutes. If there are a large number of members wishing to speak, I may reduce the time limit further to try to accommodate as many people as possible. Our first contribution will be from Mr. Nurlanbek Turgumbek Ulu, Speaker of the Kyrgyz Parliament. I understand that Mr. Nurlanbek Turgumbek Ulu will be speaking Kyrgyz, and that translation into the official languages of the OSCE will be made available in the usual way. Mr. Nurlanbek Turgumbek Ulu, you have the floor.
Саламатсыздарбы, урматтуу кесиптештер, айымдар жана мырзалар. Кыргыз Республикасынын Жогорку Кеңешинин атынан кабыл алуучу тарапка Португалия парламентине Европада коопсуздук жана кызматташтык боюнча уюмдун парламенттик ассамблеясынын 32 жылдык сессиясын жогорку деңгээлде уюштургандыгы үчүн терең ыраазычылык билдирүүгө уруксат этиңиздер. Бул жолугушуу өзгөчө мааниге ээ, анткени ал Хелсинкинин акыркы актысынын 50 жылдык мааракесинде өтөт. Баарыбыз үчүн бул эки укунун калыптанышындагы негизги баалуулуктар диалог, урматтоо жана жалпы келечек үчүн жоопкерчилик жөнүндө эскертүү. 1975 жылдагы Хелсинки актысы катышуучу мамлекеттердин ортосундагы мамилелерди жакшыртууга олуттуу салым кошкон. Анткени ал мамлекеттер аралык өз ара аракеттенүү принциптерин иштеп чыккан. Бул принциптер актуалдуулугун жоготпостон, бирок көп учурда бурмаланып, чечмеленип жана аткарылып келет. Бүгүнкү күндө бизге 1970 жылдардын башындагы Европадагы коопсуздук жана кызматташтыгы боюнча жыйынын түзүү процессине окшош саясий, реалдуу, калыс диалог керек. Бул коопсуздук тутумун азыркы чакырыктарга ылайыктуу, оптималдуу ыңгайлаштыруу максатында жасалууга тийиш. Кымбаттуу кесиптештер, 2025 жылдын март айында Кыргызстан менен Тажикстандын өлкө башчылары Бишкек шаарында Кыргыз-Тажик мамлекеттик чек арасы жөнүндө келишимге кол коюшту. Бул укуктук гана эмес, ошондой эле саясий аламандыктын да актысы болду. Бул документ узак убакыт бою эки өлкөнүн ортосунда карама-каршылыктардын жана туруксуздуктун булагы болуп келген, ошондой эле жалпы аймакка таасирин тийгизген маселеге чекит коюлду. Буга чейин да аймактын лидерлеринин саясий эркинин жана тиешелүү органдарынын аракеттеринин аркасында Борбор Азиянын башка мамлекеттеринин ортосундагы чек араларды демаркациялоо маселелери ыраттуу жана чечкиндүү түрдө чечилген. Аймактык чакырыктар жамааттык чечимдерди талап кылат. Курч маселелердин чечилиши жалпы аймак үчүн бардык багыттарда чоң мүмкүнчүлүктөрдү ачты. Ал бүгүнкү күндө тынчтыктын, туруктуулуктун жана өнүгүүнүн аймагына айланып бара жатканы айкын. Борбор Азия кызматташуу үчүн жаңы бирдиктүү мейкиндик. Биз Борбор Азия ЭКК парламенттик платформасынын өнүктүрүүнү ушул форматта мыйзам чыгаруу диалогун коркунучтар менен бетме-бет келип жатабыз. Кыргызстандын демилгеси менен буунун башкы ассамблеясынын 2022 жылды тоолорду туруктуу өнүктүрүүнүн эл аралык жылы деп жарыяланган. Кыргызстан тоолуу өлкө катары тоолуу аймактардын бакубаттуулугун жана туруктуу өнүгүшүн камсыздоодо өзүнүн жоопкерчилигин терең түшүнөт. Биздин демилгебиз менен жана тоолуу өнүктүштөрүбүздү кеңири колдоосу менен учурда тоолуу аймактарды өнүктүрүүнүн 2023-2027 жылдарга карата 5 жылдыгын иш аракеттер планы ишке ашырылууда. Аны ишке ашырууга биз системалуу түрдө мамиле кылдык. Улуттук деңгээлде жол картасын, эл аралык деңгээлде глобалдык иш аракеттер планын ишке ашырып жатабыз. Биз ЭККнு тоо экосистемаларынын өзгөчө аялуулугун таанууга жана тоо күн тартибин регионалдык стратегияларга кошууга чакырабыз. Кыргызстан төмөнкүлөрдү сунуштайт. Тоолорду туруктуу өнүктүрүү боюнча парламентаралык платформаны түзүү, тоолуу өлкөлөрдө биологиялык ар түрдүүлүктү коргоо, жер көчкүлөрдүн алдын алуу жана жашыл энергетиканы жана экономиканы өнүктүрүү программаларын колдоо. Урматтуу коллегалар, Кыргызстанда демократиялык институттарды өнүктүрүү улантылууда. Биз шайлоо мыйзамдарын, анын ичинде ЭКУКнун эл аралык стандарттарын, ички саясий өнүгүүнүн муктаждыктарын жана өзгөчөлүктөрүн эске алуу менен өркүндөтүп жатабыз. Биздин демократия жаштардын, аялдардын жана аярлуу топтордун катышуусуз мүмкүн эмес. Өлкөдө парламенттин курамында аялдар үчүн 33% квотаны бекиткен жаңы шайлоо мыйзамынын жаңы редакциясы кабыл алынып, жаштар парламент иштеп жатат. Бул багытта ЭКУК менен болгон диалогду биз жетиштүү жана келечектүү деп эсептейбиз. ЭКУК кагылышуу эмес, диалог үстөмдүк кылган уюм бойдон калышы керек. Биз ЭКУКнун миссиясы айырмачылыктарды күчөтүү эмес, алардын ортосунда көпүрө болуу деп ишенебиз. Биздин уюм дипломатиянын, урматтоонун жана кызыкчылыктардын тең салмактуулугунун тили менен сүйлөшкөндө гана күчтүү боло алат. Глобалдык туруксуздук шартында ЭКУК парламенттик ассамблеясы сыяктуу аянтчалар өзгөчө мааниге ээ болууда. Кыргыз Республикасынын Жогорку Кеңеши анын ишине конструктивдүү салым кошууга, өз ара урматтоого жана өнөктөштүк аркылуу тынчтыкты бекемдөөгө дайым даяр экендигин билдирем. Көңүл бурганыңыздар үчүн чоң рахмат.
Thank you. I invite to the floor Mr. Nikita Porturaev from Ukraine, followed by Honorable Heidi Fry from Canada.
Dear colleagues, first of all, let me thank you, our special reporter, and for brilliant report. Thank you, Tobias. Thank you, Kostel, for managing our committee in such hard period of probably existing of our organization. So colleagues, Russia's ongoing war of aggression against Ukraine remains the most pressing threat to regional and international security. It constitutes the blatant and systematic violation of the UN chapter and the Helsinki Final Act. Russia continues to pursue its aggression through both conventional warfare and hybrid tactics, including cyber attacks, disinformation campaigns, and organized crime schemes aimed at evading sanctions and destabilizing democratic societies. From 2014 onwards, Ukraine has faced escalating cyber warfare, which intensified in the lead-up to the full-scale invasion of 2022. These cyber attacks have targeted key sectors, including government, energy, finance, and communications, aiming to disrupt national governance and economic stability. Online platforms, colleagues, are weaponized to spread militarized propaganda. Telegram and other channels are used to manipulate young audiences, sometimes drawing them into subversive activities. Ukraine's law enforcement has identified over, colleagues' attention, over 180,000 malicious Telegram links with more than 40,000 blocked evidence of the scale of this effort. Sorry. That's why, colleagues, I, using this opportunity, invite all of you to visit today at 12:30, special side event dedicated to the informational war that Russia is continuing against all and every democratic country, as we saw it in Romania, as we saw it everywhere, as we are prepared to help our Moldovan colleagues and other democratic governments neighboring with us and in Europe. So please, we will be very thankful to see you on our side event, because it is very practical mini conference dedicated to our common possibilities to defend ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. I invite to the floor Honorable Heidi Fry from Canada, followed by Miss Lilith Inassian from Armenia.
Thank you very much, Chair. I want to thank Mr. Winkler for an excellent report and an excellent resolution. But I want to focus on one area of his resolution, and that is accountability for war crimes. President Zelensky this year in Bucha provided us with statistical evidence of these crimes, of over 180,000 war crimes committed against Ukraine. Mass graves, torture, summary executions, and sexual violence. And they shocked us all with the horror of it. But Bucha was not the only place where these incidents occurred. More and more evidence is surfacing that across Ukraine, we are actually seeing more and more documentation of deliberate targeting of civilians, deliberate targeting of hospitals, forced deportation of children. Colleagues, even war has rules. We learned that after the atrocities of World War II, and we set clear rules. Russia has actually broken every single one of those rules against the Geneva Convention, the UN Charter, and their obligations under the Helsinki Final Act. Lasting peace in Ukraine will never happen unless we have full accountability for those war crimes of Russia. Accountability is necessary to restore trust, to ensure justice for victims, and to prevent further crimes by any other aggressive organizations or nations. It's not only a legal and an ethical imperative, but research shows us that actually accountability for war crimes ends violence, prevents conflict relapse, builds trust, and actually promotes a culture of rule of law, which we're desperately needing. Canada supports the resolution's endorsement of efforts by the UN Human Rights Council, by the OSCE Moscow mechanism, the International Criminal Court, to investigate, document, and prosecute Russian war crimes. As critical a part of affirming global norms against impunity, we have also in Canada endorsed the establishment of a special tribunal for the crime of aggression against Ukraine. This setup within the framework of the Council of Europe would be just another tool that we can use to hold Russia accountable for this brutal war. I urge other participating states and colleagues to continue providing investigative and legal support and other forms of assistance towards ensuring accountability for Russian atrocities and to support this initiative. Once again, I want to congratulate the rapporteur for an excellent report and an excellent resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. I invite now to the floor Mr. Ulrich Toden from Germany, followed by Mr. Sergei Rachkov from Belarus.
Dear colleagues, my name is Ulrich Thun and I've recently become a member of the German Bundestag and this very esteemed parliamentary assembly. In my youth, a long time ago in the 1980s, I was strongly influenced by the policy of détente and the peace movement. And that's when I started to become politically active. And that's the reason why now I'm trying to get involved in this committee on political affairs and security. Currently, we're standing at a decisive milestone of having to rethink joint security 50 years after the Helsinki Final Act. We need to remain true to the values and principles of the OSCE. It goes without saying that we condemn Russia's criminal war of aggression against Ukraine without ifs and buts. At the same time, though, we have to find a political solution to bring the war to an end. In the long term, we also have to rebuild a new pan-European transatlantic security order. It's very important that the remaining remnants of common security are preserved. I refer to the New START treaty between the USA and Russia. It is the very last treaty agreement on the limitation of strategic nuclear weapons, which is about to expire in February next year. Its cancellation could trigger an unchecked nuclear arms race and also incite other states with nuclear weapons ambitions, including, but not limited to, my own country, Germany. And we mustn't allow this to happen. Therefore, we should encourage our esteemed colleagues in the United States delegation, the Russian delegation isn't present for obvious reasons, to make every effort to ensure that the US administration and the US Congress extend this important arms limitation treaty. Preserving the treaty is clearly in the security interest of the United States, as it too is within the geographical range of these weapon systems. It is now up to you, my esteemed colleagues. You can be sure of our support in this endeavor. I will personally campaign on this issue on behalf of my political group in the German Parliament. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I invite to the floor Mr. Sergei Rachko, followed by Mr. Pavel Bartosek from Iceland.
Спасибо, господин председатель. Уважаемые участники заседания, прежде всего хочу обратить внимание докладчика комитета, господина Костелло Дунаву и других выступающих, на несоответствие действительности, представленной в его докладе информации о Беларуси. Заявляю, что Беларусь не находится под контролем России. Беларусь находится под контролем белорусского народа. Это суверенное и независимое государство. В Беларуси не меньше демократии, чем в любой другой европейской стране. Уважаемые коллеги, давно пришла пора прекратить использовать в документах Парламентской ассамблеи ОБСЕ политические клише и стереотипы в отношении белорусского государства. Мы с сожалением вынуждены констатировать, что архитектура европейской безопасности, которая десятилетия формировалась усилиями и ответственностью множества государств, сегодня фактически разрушена. Режим контроля над обычными вооружениями в Европе, когда-то служивший основой взаимного доверия, прекратил свое существование. Механизмы укрепления доверия и действующая переговорная форма оказались либо парализованы, либо полностью заблокированы. На протяжении более 30 лет Беларусь добросовестно и в полном объеме выполняла свои обязательства по договору об обычных вооруженных силах в Европе. Даже в условиях политической конфронтации и одностороннего прекращения выполнения обязательств рядом стран в отношении Беларуси мы сохраняли верность договору. Но решение государств-членов НАТО приостановить его действия де-факто разрушило правовую основу соглашения и оставило нам единственно возможный выбор. В прошлом году в Беларуси принят закон, приостанавливающий участие нашей страны в ДОВСЕ. Хотим подчеркнуть, этот шаг не проявление агрессии, а вынужденная ответная мера, направленная на защиту нашей национальной безопасности в условиях эскалации военно-политической напряженности в регионе. Беларусь остается сторонником контроля над обычными вооружениями и выступает за его восстановление на основах равноправия, транспарентности и уважения в интересах всех сторон. Мы хотели бы еще раз подчеркнуть, что Беларусь не выступает против безопасности других государств. Мы стремимся к формированию такой архитектуры безопасности, которая была бы инклюзивной, неделимой и учитывала бы законные интересы всех без исключения стран. В Минске убеждены, что единственным реалистичным путем преодоления нынешнего кризиса является диалог, честный, уважительный и основанный на равноправии. Беларусь была и остается открытой к такому диалогу. Благодарю вас.
Thank you. I invite to the floor Mr. Pavel Bartosek from Iceland, followed by Mr. Serhil Evtuskov from Ukraine.
Dear colleagues, the last few nights have seen one of the most intense aerial attacks on Ukraine by Russia since the start of the war. The situation is not complicated. The United States have pushed for a ceasefire. Ukraine has accepted the ceasefire. Russia has rejected it. It is as simple as that. Iceland continues to support Ukraine because international law matters, human rights matter, and sovereignty matters. The draft resolution before us reflects that. It documents crimes, suffering, and the need for justice. Iceland supports this direction. We are also watching the situation in Georgia with concern. The detention of opposition leaders like Zula Biaparidze is a serious matter. My party is a member of the ALDE party, which has rightly condemned these actions. In Belarus, the recent release of few political prisoners is welcome. I want to acknowledge the role of the United States in making this happen. The release of Sergei Tianovsky and others is a positive step, but it's not enough. More than 1,000 remain detained. The OSCE must keep pushing for their release. Dear Chair, thank you. I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you. I invite to the floor Mr. Serhil Evtushok from Ukraine. It is in the room? No? He will come later? Later? Okay, thank you. Then I invite to the floor Ms. Rupa Hook from United Kingdom. Thank you. Will be followed by Mr. Yan Gerashenko from Ukraine. Call him, please, if you can.
Thank you. The Helsinki Final Act 50 years ago and subsequent 1990s, when I came of political age, were optimistic times. The fall of the Berlin Wall, peace in Northern Ireland and outside the OSCE region, end of apartheid in South Africa. Today, in 2025, if you invert our committee name, there's a lot of political affairs and arguably insecurity, as was said by Mr. Winkler, testing those principles of sovereignty, territorial integrity, democracy and human rights to the fore, as well as the rule of law. 2024, we know, was the year of elections, with both the UK seeing Labour elected and the more consequential US seeing Trump 2.0. And now we see 2025. There is uncertainty in the Middle East, Indo-Pacific, and obviously in our own OSCE region, Ukraine. There are global challenges aplenty, even if there seems to be an uneasy truce in Iran/Israel and Armenia/Azerbaijan. It's 159 days after Trump promised he'd end wars in Gaza, which is now 650 days running, and Ukraine, that is 1,254 years old. And we see both carrying on with some parallels. The sight of bodies rescued from rubble of residential buildings. And now that headlines have shifted to Iran/Israel, it seems the gaze of the world has been averted from Ukraine and Gaza. And under Trump 2.0, it looks like multilateralism is going out of fashion. He has forced the issue of NATO with those countries underspending from the 2%. But also, I fear that the cuts in international aid, brutal and sudden in the US, are feeding another type of insecurity that allows actors like China to move in. And somebody said to me that if you're starving and you're offered a banquet, as many countries may be, why would you say no? So look, I want to conclude by saying I'm optimistic, even if some people say the rules of international order are dead, that it's an opportunity for the OSCE to keep multilateralism alive. We shouldn't be normalizing the killing of aid workers, destruction of hospitals, residential buildings. Let us stand firm. Let us not betray Helsinki's.
Please try to conclude.
Thank you.
Thank you. I invite to the floor Ms. Irina Gerashenko from Ukraine, followed by Ms. Lilith Minassian from Armenia.
Thank you very much, dear colleague. This year marks the 40th anniversary of the Helsinki Final Act, a document that laid the foundation for shared responsibility in unfolding human rights across Europe. Today, these principles are being systematically destroyed by the Russian Federation. Russia continues its genocide against Ukrainians, demonstrating medieval cruelty and barbarism. Since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, Russian terrorist forces have executed at least 445 Ukrainian prisoners of war after they surrendered. Evidence confirms that 206 Ukrainian POV died in captivity as a result of systematic torture. Russian prisons are also site of torture against civilians. Ukrainian journalist Victoria Roshina died from torture in Russian captivity. Her body was withheld from her family for 3 months as a preparatory attempt to cancel sins of abuse. According to UN, estimated 95% of released Ukrainian POV were subjected to torture. This is modern-day Nazism, a state policy of terror. Russia has stabilized 186 detention facilities for Ukrainian military and civilian hostages, where is held 10,000 of people, including over 30 journalists. During the full-scale war, 106 Ukrainian and foreign journalists have been killed, along with 207 artists. 1,420 cultural heritage sites have been destroyed. This is a deliberated policy of erasing Ukrainian identity. Officially, over 20,000 children have been deported, but the real number is significantly higher. Ukrainian children in the occupied territories are being forcibly re-educated.
Please try to conclude.
Thank you for your support to Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you. I invite to the floor Ms. Lilith Minasian from Armenia, followed by Ms. Irene Karalambides from Cyprus.
Thank you. Distinguished colleagues, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Mr. Winkler for his dedicated work on the resolution and for giving thoughtful attention to the evolving dynamics and peace prospects in our region. Since our last session, we have made real progress. The draft agreement on the establishment of peace and interstate relations between Armenia and Azerbaijan has been fully agreed upon. Negotiations on its content are now complete. We are now ready to discuss the signing of this agreement. We have publicly declared our readiness to sign in. This is more than a political development, it's a turning point. Our region has long been seen as a place of conflict and confrontation. Today, we have the chance to reshape that image, to show that even after decades of war and division, nations can choose peace through dialogue. We believe that by doing so, we can offer a powerful message that peace is not only possible, it's achievable through political will and mutual understanding. We can become a positive example to the others. Those countries that difficult histories can still look forward rather than remain trapped in the past. A permanent peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan would allow both countries to flourish as transit and connectivity hubs, building bridges of commerce, energy, and people-to-people contact, and setting an example in a world where war too often seems easier than diplomacy. We call on the international community to actively encourage and support both Armenia and Azerbaijan to move swiftly towards signing this agreement. This is not a moment to wait, this is a moment to act. And your support can help us to take this decisive step forward. Colleagues, let us make this moment count, not only for our generation, but for those who come after us. Thank you.
Thank you. I invite to the floor Ms. Irene Karalambidis from Cyprus, followed by Mr. Gaya Mamadov from Azerbaijan.
Thank you, Costel. Well done, Tobias. Dear colleagues, the Helsinki Final Act was adopted at the height of the Cold War amid deep mistrust. Even in those circumstances, responsible leadership prevailed. The signatories chose dialogue over division and cooperation over chaos. So even today, a minimum level of trust and cooperation is still possible if we have the political will to pursue it. And at this point, I must express reservations about the way we view multilateralism today. The USA have a significant role to play internationally, no doubt about that. But we're watching the EU remain an observer. International developments demand that the EU establishes its own role and voice to respond to international challenges. International conflicts are devastating, and their escalation is a real threat. The Middle East is on fire. From Cyprus, we watch rockets being fired, a terrifying view. In Gaza, people are starving. Children lose their lives, either from shelling or from starvation. They fight over a piece of bread. Mothers watch their children die hopeless, and despite international community efforts to deliver aid, results remain disappointing. With the beginning of hostilities between Israel and Iran has taken attention away, disoriented from the massacre in Gaza. Also, people are being killed every day in Ukraine. But this is unfortunately not front news anymore. And it should be. About Iran, let me be clear. Under no conditions, the development of a nuclear weapon should be allowed. And I think USA action was in the right direction. The OSCE was created to safeguard security and cooperation in Europe and wider. Do you believe that its aims are being fulfilled? Yesterday, a supplementary item through which the limitation of consensus rule in the Ministerial Council was provided. In our organization, balances are extremely sensitive. Strong centrifugal could reveal this organization if we don't make sure that consensus is protected. What will the future like for small and not that powerful countries without consensus? A prevailing of the might? Closing, I underline that what we need now in this assembly is clear, principled positions and strong leadership, not ambiguity, not delay, but a firm, united voice that defends international law and Helsinki commitments and leads by example. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. I invite to the floor Mr. Gaia Mamadov, followed by Mr. Attila Tilki from Hungary.
Mr. Chairperson, at its 50th anniversary, Helsinki Final Act indeed remains a landmark achievement, not only in the context of European security, but also in terms of international peace and cooperation. As a country situated in the intersection of several global interests, Azerbaijan has faced complex security challenges. Despite this, we have always sought to have solutions through dialogue and constructive engagement. Having recently emerged from a prolonged conflict with Armenia, Azerbaijan is now fully determined to achieve a final and lasting peace in our region. The resolution of this conflict removed the primary obstacle to the sovereign development and independence of both Armenia and Azerbaijan. We firmly believe that acting responsibly now and refraining from steps that could jeopardize this moment of opportunity must be a task of priority now. And in this regard, we expect from Armenia to move the remaining obstacles so that the initially agreed peace agreement can be signed. We deeply value the international support extended to us in support of peace. At the same time, we expect continued and concrete assistance in addressing the immense humanitarian consequences of the conflict, the rehabilitation and reconstruction of war-affected territories, and demining of approximately 14% of our territory, a task that requires $150 billion. Especially the demining is an urgent task where we need tangible support so that we can save lives. In conclusion, I wish to appreciate the efforts of the rapporteur who created a rather good report and draft resolution. We generally support these documents. At the same time, we prepared 2 amendments so that it is more balanced and forward-looking and in support of the peace process in our region. let's reaffirm here our shared commitment to peace, cooperation, and principles enshrined in the Helsinki Final Act. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mamadov. Next speaker is Attila Tilki from Hungary, followed by Thomas Portes from France.
Dear colleagues, we are convinced that OSCE is still the most appropriate and inclusive platform for dialogue on issues related to European security. Ever since its establishment, the OSCE has been a vital component of the international security architecture, owing its comprehensive approach to security. We maintain our view on the need for dialogue between the countries of the East and West. In this regard, it's crucial to make efforts to reinvigorate the OSCE's core function of being the forum for dialogue and confidence building without over-politicizing the issues at hand. In this regard, we welcome the main objective, the Finnish chairpersonship, to strengthen the OSCE's role to this end. If we let the OSCE degrade or erode, an important element of European security will vanish that cannot be replaced or reinvented. In order to avoid that, we need renewed political commitment, and we must restore peace in the OSCE area. In this regard, we very much appreciate the readiness of the Secretary General to ensure that OSCE provides a platform for dialogue. We are grateful that among his first visits, the Secretary General came to Budapest. We also welcome the newly appointed heads of institutions with whom Hungary has already had close contacts, established fruitful cooperation. Despite all the current difficulties and challenges, the OSCE remains an organization of great importance for wider forum, with an invaluable set of tools to address a broad spectrum of security-related concerns and challenges. In this vein, Hungary strongly supports the efforts the Finnish chairpersonships to adopt adequate budget from organization. We agree with the Secretary General that there is a strong potential for OSCE to play a role after the end of Russian-Ukraine war, including monitoring a potential ceasefire and supporting reconstruction. We sincerely welcome the Secretary General's readiness for preparing the OSCE to take part in any settlement process should their needs arise. A Hungarian astronaut, Tibor Kapu, from the country where I live, is currently in space. As he himself said, we Hungarians always dare to dream big. We believe and are convinced that the OSCE will once again fulfill the role for which it was created. Thank you for the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Tilki. So we have now 8 speakers on the list. We would propose the list to be closed. Next speaker is Thomas Portes from France, followed by Sargis Khandanyan from Armenia.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, chers collègues. La proposition de résolution qui nous est présentée aujourd'hui pose un certain nombre d'enjeux au moment où nous célébrons les 50 ans de l'acte final d'Helsinki. Cependant, elle est aussi malheureusement un exemple flagrant du 2 poids 2 mesures. Un 2 poids 2 mesures qui acte la mort du droit international et n'est pas à la hauteur des enjeux qui se trouvent face à nous. Cette résolution qui, dans son point 1, rappelle les principes des accords d'Helsinki, dont, entre autres, l'inviolabilité des frontières, la défense des droits de l'homme et de la sécurité internationale, nous amène à condamner avec raison l'agression russe sur l'Ukraine sur plus de 15 points. Je regrette une fois de plus la différence de traitement qui entoure la situation au Proche-Orient, et singulièrement les condamnations qu'il manque contre l'État d'Israël. Comment peut-on se féliciter, je cite, avec satisfaction du cessez-le-feu conclu en janvier entre Israël et le Hamas, sans condamner de manière claire le responsable de sa violation, à savoir l'État israélien? Depuis 20 mois, Israël exécute, organise et planifie un génocide à Gaza, affame une population sans défense et pousse l'horreur jusqu'à tirer sur des Palestiniens venus chercher de l'aide alimentaire. On compte plus de 55 000 morts à Gaza, des milliers de blessés, de disparus, d'amputés. Face au premier génocide filmé en direct, nous ne pouvons rester silencieux. Face à l'effacement délibéré et méthodique d'un peuple, nous pouvons nous contenter de formules neutres. Alors que l'ONU et les instances internationales sont aujourd'hui attaquées, l'OSCE doit parler d'une voix forte, au service des peuples et de la paix. Comment parler du droit d'Israël à se défendre alors que Netanyahou vient de bombarder son 4e pays d'affilée, multipliant les crimes de guerre? Comment être crédible quand on parle de l'importance du respect du droit international et de l'instabilité persistante au Moyen-Orient sans jamais pointer la responsabilité de l'État d'Israël? Notre résolution doit appeler l'ensemble des États membres de l'OSCE à respecter le mandat d'arrêt émis par la Cour pénale internationale à l'encontre de Benjamin Netanyahou et Yoav Gallant. Notre résolution doit aussi, comme je l'ai rappelé hier, de manière claire, demander la suspension de l'accord d'association entre Israël et l'Union européenne. Les guerres préventives, concept qui n'existe pas, servent de paravent aux criminels de guerre pour servir leurs propres intérêts. La sécurité des peuples passera par la diplomatie et le dialogue et le respect intangible du droit international. Si nous voulons que les accords d'Helsinki vivent, ils ne doivent pas dépendre des lieux des conflits et des auteurs des crimes. Il ne faut pas de géométrie variable sur le droit international.
Thank you, Mr. Portis. Next speaker is Sargis Kandanian from Armenia, followed by Janar Akayev from Kyrgyzstan.
Mr. Chair, I would like to express my gratitude to you, Mr. Tobias Winkler, for your excellent work for preparing the report and drafting the resolution. It quite objectively reflects the current geopolitical and security situation in the OSCE region. In your presentation, you mentioned the progress that Armenia and Azerbaijan made through the peace negotiations, and indeed, our two countries earlier this year announced that the draft text of the peace agreement is ready. And Armenia proposed to start the discussions on the day and venue for signing it. I agree with the assessment that we need to use the window of opportunity to sign and ratify that agreement, as it is reflected in your resolution and as my colleague from Azerbaijan just said. Armenia expressed in multiple times that it stands ready to sign the peace agreement and establish interstate relations between our two countries as soon as possible. Armenia is ready to sign it today. Armenia was ready to sign it yesterday. There are no remaining obstacles towards it. I repeat, there are no remaining obstacles. And we do not need to overwhelm the peace agenda with new items, with new preconditions. The text of the agreement can serve as a solid basis for normalizing relations and continue the dialogue. Obviously, there are a number of outstanding issues that we need to address. Obviously, after 3 decades of conflict, we need to build trust. And I believe that the institutionalization of our relations by signing and ratifying that agreement is the most important prerequisite for establishing the dialogue and trust. At the times of current geopolitical turmoil and crisis, and as we commemorate 50 years of Helsinki Final Act, we have a thirst for good news and success stories. The peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan can be such a success story. Thank you.
Thank you. I invite to the floor Mr. Yanor Akayev from Kyrgyzstan, followed by Mr. Denis Dukarne from Belgium.
Уважаемые коллеги, дамы и господа, выражаю благодарность организаторам за возможность выступить на данном мероприятии. Пользуясь хорошей возможностью, обращаюсь к вам в символичное время, которое совпадает 50-й годовщиной подписания Хельсинского заключительного акта. 50 лет назад, в 1975 году, представители 35 государств поставили свои подписи под документом, который стал не просто основополагающим актом по обеспечению безопасности в Европе, но и символом диалога, уважения и общего стремления к миру. Хельсинский акт положил начало уникальной архитектуре сотрудничества, в основе которой принцип неделимости безопасности, уважение суверенитета, территориальной целостности, прав человека и основополагающих свобод. Однако сегодня мы живем в иной реальности. Мир, охваченный конфликтами, геополитическим соперничеством, ростом недоверия между государствами, стоит перед вызовами, которые бросают тень на принципы, закрепленные в Хельсинки. Нарушение международного права, вооружение конфликта, гибридные угрозы, кибербезопасность, дезинформация, а также внутренняя политическая поляризация – все это требует от нас поиска новых инструментов, но с опорой на прежние ценности. Уважаемые коллеги, для сохранения своей актуальности нашей организации необходимо сделать следующее. Во-первых, ОБСЕ должна подтвердить приверженность принципам Хельсинского заключительного акта. Это не просто символика, это моральный и политический ориентир. нельзя подменять базовые принципы с временной политической выгодой. Во-вторых, необходимо усилить роль парламентской ассамблеи ОБСЕ как площадки для откровенного диалога и парламентской дипломатии. Наши заседания – это не ритуал, а возможность выстраивать мост в условиях кризиса доверия. В-третьих, мы должны адаптировать механизмы безопасности к новым реалиям. Гибридные угрозы и информационная война требуют комплексных ответов. ОБСЕ, обладающая уникальным полевым присутствием, экспертным потенциалом в нейтральным статусом, может и должна играть более активную роль в предупреждении конфликтов. И, наконец, мы должны активизировать участие молодежи и гражданского общества в процессах ОБСЕ. Без доверия людей к Институту международной безопасности никакая система не сможет быть устойчивой. Благодарю за внимание.
Thank you. I invite to the floor Mr. Denis Ducarne from Belgium, followed by Mr. Nicolas Sarkozy from Georgia.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je me réjouis de la résolution forte que notre Assemblée apporte à l'Ukraine. On le voit dans la résolution, un soutien par rapport à son indéfectible liberté, sa souveraineté, son intégralité territoriale. Je me réjouis donc que nous, Assemblée parlementaire de l'OSCE, apportions support au peuple ukrainien face à l'invasion russe lors de cette session d'été. Mais je dois vous avouer, Monsieur le Président, qu'au titre de parlementaire national, j'ai parfois le sentiment qu'il faut que je sois à une réunion de l'OSCE pour entendre parler du soutien de l'OSCE à l'Ukraine. Je dois en effet remonter de plusieurs mois dans ma presse nationale pour lire des articles relatifs à la position de l'OSCE par rapport à l'Ukraine. Et dans la presse française, ce n'est pas beaucoup mieux. Donc, au titre de chef de la délégation belge, j'ai voté hier le budget de l'OSCE. Je vous invite à engager davantage de moyens dans votre communication sur ce volet pour sortir de cet entre-soi sans doute confortable, mais peu productif, et de vous engager davantage au nom de l'OSCE, dans le cadre du soutien à l'Ukraine, avec une communication qui soit plus accessible et plus pédagogique. Ça n'en sera que profitable aux thèses fondamentales que nous défendons.
Thank you. I invite to the floor Mr. Nicolas Samkaraze from Georgia, followed by Mr. Vil Kanisto from Finland.
Thank you, Chair. Dear colleagues, currently Georgia faces a range of internal and external challenges, each being a result of foreign interference, whether direct or indirect. 20% of our territory, the regions of Abkhazia and Skhin Valley, remain occupied by Russia, while domestically we witness artificially crafted desperate attempts of destabilization enabled by foreign funding. It means that various foreign powers are trying to infringe upon both our sovereignty and territorial integrity. In this light, I'm very thankful to the rapporteur for including the paragraph on Russia's continued occupation of Georgia's territories and the call for immediate withdrawal of Russian military forces from the Georgian territory, including safe and dignified return of all displaced persons and refugees. I thank you, rapporteur. This was my suggestion at the winter session in Vienna, and it has been duly considered. Also, the rapporteur considered my another suggestion, which concerned the illegitimacy of elections held in occupied Abkhazia in March this year. However, we are also strongly disagreeing with some of the sentences in the report regarding restrictions of the right to peaceful assembly in Georgia and media independence. A best testament to the right to peaceful assembly in Georgia is the fact that in the last several months, a handful of people are closing the central avenue in Tbilisi, but they are doing it in peaceful manner, and therefore their right is upheld, so nobody is bothering them, even though the number of them is not really enough to close the central thoroughfare in Tbilisi. Secondly, as for media independence, even the last ODIHR report noted that Georgia enjoys very pluralistic media, although very polarized, but it's still very pluralistic and independent. And finally, on politically motivated detentions, these detentions were the result of the November-December riots, where more than 60 policemen were injured. One of them lost eyesight. Several of them had to undergo surgery. So clearly these policemen were attacked by someone, and these were not peaceful protests. Those were violent protests. So the perpetrators of this crime have been detained, and their trials are ongoing. So this is not a politically motivated detention. This is a detention motivated by the acts of criminality. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I invite to the floor Mr. Vil Canistru from Finland, followed by Sir John Whitingale from United Kingdom.
Mr. Chair, dear colleagues, since people tend to get used to situation, even the bad ones, repetition is needed. Russia's war of aggression is a turning point for our region. As the draft resolution affirms, this is not just about Ukraine, it's about the stability, freedom, and future of the entire OSCE region. Coming from Finland, a country that shares a long border with Russia, we understand what it means to defend our independence. It means being proactive rather than reactive. That is why our support, political, military, and economic, must be unwavering. Article 35 reminds us peace must be built on justice and accountability. Dear colleagues, we must not forget maritime security. Russia's attack on Black Sea ports and commercial vessels have shaken global trade, but a deeper threat comes from the so-called shadow fleet, unregulated vessels evading sanctions, operating under false flags, and posing serious environmental and security risks. These ships now operate around the OSCE area, threatening civilian shipping, energy routes, and the safety of all OSCE countries. This is of course mentioned briefly in the report, but due to the seriousness of this situation, I wanted to elaborate this issue with my supplementary item that I hope you can support. Let's be proactive as we can. Colleagues, this is not just about defending borders, it's about defending the Helsinki spirit, the idea that security must be cooperative, law-based, and indivisible. Finland stands firmly with Ukraine. We stand for sovereignty, justice, and for security on both land and sea. Thank you.
Thank you. I invite to the floor Sir John Whitingale from United Kingdom, followed by Ms. Ivroshima Pejovic from Montenegro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I commend the rapporteur on an excellent report? We focus on the 50th anniversary of the Helsinki Final Act. If you look at that act, the guiding principles which are contained at the beginning talk about the right of every state to sovereign equality, the inviolability of frontiers, the integrity of states. And yet all of those guiding principles are currently being breached by Russia in its aggressive attack upon Ukraine. I pay tribute to the extraordinary courage of the Ukrainian armed forces and the Ukrainian people, and we will continue to give them every support. My government announced last week that we will be supplying 350 missiles to Ukraine, funded from the interest from frozen Russian assets. But we need also to take account of the war crimes being committed by Russia, the abduction of children, the ethnic cleansing, whereby Ukrainian citizens in occupied areas have been given a deadline as to when they have to apply for Russian citizenship or be expelled. All of us are currently under attack, and Ukraine is our front line. But let us also recognize Russia's activities across the whole of Western Europe. We are seeing acts of sabotage, we are seeing attacks on undersea cables, we are seeing cyber warfare, and we're seeing information manipulation and interference in elections in Georgia, in Western Balkans, in Moldova. I went to Moldova a few weeks ago and heard at first hand about the disruption caused by Russian interference in the presidential election there, and we need to be on our guard for the election coming ahead in just a few months' time. This is a critical time for the OSCE. The principles of the Helsinki Act have never been more relevant and have never been more important, but equally they have never been under greater threat than they are today, and we need to stand absolutely solidly behind Ukraine and in defense of those principles. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And the last speaker, Ms. Ivrosima Pejovic from Montenegro. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, dear fellow colleagues. Mr. Winkler, thank you for your work on this resolution. Montenegro, as a small nation, is deeply committed to multilateralism. Our commitment is rooted in our belief that multilateral organizations such as OSCE have not only stood the test of time, but have proven predictable to ensure peace and stability. We believe that the OSCE has a capacity to overcome obstacles even in its the most difficult periods, and that is the role in fostering security and cooperation in this more important than ever. The security in the OSCE region is indivisible. No region can enjoy lasting stability if the security of any part is compromised. War in Ukraine is fracturing the European security architecture, and from the beginning of this war, Montenegro firmly stands with Ukraine. And I have to remind you that we accepted the highest number of Ukrainian refugees per capita in Europe, and Montenegro's constant support for the international mechanism that demonstrate our unwavering commitment to upholding human rights in conflict-affected areas. OSCE's comprehensive approach to security will be crucial in the post-war era. The OSCE's support for the Balkan in the aftermath of our own wars was very precious. It helped to rebuild our societies and promoted long-term stability. Today, that role is as relevant, if not more so, than at the OSCE inception. Montenegro stands firm in its dedication to the OSCE, confident that this organization remains a cornerstone of European security and multilateral organizations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ivrosima Pejovic. Thank you, dear colleagues. We will now move to consider the amendments submitted to the draft resolution. 32 valid amendments have been tabled, and copies of the amendments have been made available. In discussing amendments, I will call the proposer of the amendment first, and then we'll call an opponent of the amendment. I will then ask the sponsor of the draft resolution, Mr. Tobias Winkler, if he has not already spoken, for his opinion. Following that, I shall put the amendment to the vote. I ask speakers to observe a time limit of 1 minute. We are also required to vote on every paragraph to which there are no amendments, to save time and to avoid many votes on items that have broad support. I hope you agree that if no amendment has been tabled to a paragraph and if nobody requests a vote on a paragraph, we can consider it adopted. Anytime a specific vote is requested, we will do so. Are there any objections? No, thank you. The proposal is adopted. I call now, we will now consider paragraph 1. Does anyone want to vote on this paragraph? With no request for a vote, paragraph 1 is agreed. So we pass to amendment 1. I call Mr. Nilsson from Sweden to propose Amendment 1 to paragraph 2.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's an amendment written originally by Representative Vesey from US, but unfortunately they are not able to be here. The proposal is to insert some wording that it makes a clear, gross and uncorrected violation of the Helsinki Final Act. And the reason for this wording, they state, is that it's been used for many years and it has been an adopted language since 2014, but it also connects to the Prague Declaration of 1992, and that when that's considered, you can also start to discuss whether it should be followed by census -1. So by including this language in our declaration, we encourage the OSCE to adopt the same formulation and begin operating under consensus -1 to adopt decision regardless of Russia's objection. Russia should face consequences for its pernicious actions and feel the international isolation it has earned for itself. I urge my colleagues to adopt this amendment. So I warmly propose you to support this inclusion of this wording in the paragraph. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak against Amendment 1? No. Mr. Winkler, your opinion, please.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I recommend adoption.
Thank you. I shall now put Amendment 1 to vote. Who is in favor, please raise your card.
Overwhelming majority.
Okay. Somebody against the amendment, please raise your card. Two. Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. Amendment 1 is adopted. We pass to paragraph 2. We'll now vote on paragraph 2 as amended. Will all those in favor of the paragraph please raise your cards? Anybody against? Against? One. Any abstentions? One abstention. Paragraph 2 passed as was amended. Is agreed as was amended. We pass to Amendment 2. I call Mr. Pălărie from Romania to propose Amendment 2 to insert a new paragraph after paragraph 2.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, most probably for the very curious people in the room that have read carefully the 65 paragraphs of the draft resolution, you're going to find that Russia is stated more than 20 times. It looks like a resolution about Russia. So maybe many are going to wonder why one more paragraph about recalling that Russian Federation aggression constitutes a direct repudiation of the commitment. On behalf of the people who propose and support this idea, we just want to make sure that we do not talk about an external force aggressing one member of OSCE, but rather a member of OSCE that is doing this against another member. That's why we proposed, after the paragraph 2, to insert this new text that we believe it's clarifying that Russian Federation have made a decision that in spite of the Helsinki principles that they adopted and they are supporting, they decided politically to do what they've done in Ukraine. That's why we are adding this new proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak against Amendment 2? Don't see nobody. Mr. Winkler, your opinion about this amendment, please.
I appreciate and recommend adoption.
Thank you. Shall now put Amendment 2 to vote. Who is in favor, please raise your card. Thank you. Who is against, please raise your card. We have one. Thank you. Any abstentions? We don't have abstentions. Amendment 2 is adopted. Paragraph 3 to 8 are no amendments. We will now take paragraph 3 to 8 together. Does anyone want to vote on any of these paragraphs? With no request for a vote, paragraphs 3 to 8 are agreed. Thank you. We'll continue our consideration of the amendments to the draft resolution tomorrow at 9 a.m. Thank you very much, dear colleagues.